Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Goldstone Technologies Analytics Tech Video Podcast. I'm Abhishek Danavahi, hosting this podcast from our headquarters at Hyderabad. In continuation of our ongoing series, Data and Beyond, and the latest trends in the analytical space, we bring to you Season 1, Episode 2, where we talk about the latest trends in augmented analytics and how companies across various verticals can leverage augmented analytics and tools like Tableau and Salesforce to get greater insights from their data. But for our first-time viewers, let me quickly introduce Goldstone Technologies Limited. Goldstone Technologies, GTL for short, is a full-stack BI, data analytics and IT services consulting firm. So without further ado, let me introduce our guest, Mr. Prashant Datta, a principal solution engineer at Salesforce for Tableau. He has more than 16 plus years of experience where he solves complex client problems and helps clients understand and see their data at a much more greater depth. Thanks for being with us today, Prashant.
Thanks for having me here, Abhishek, and I'm really looking forward for our discussion.
Prashant, before we jump into our discussion, I'll set up some context for our viewers on today's topic, augmented analytics. At its most fundamental level, augmented analytics is the use or implementation of machine learning or natural language processing (NLP) models to automate the insights of process or insight generation. At a more simpler level, it is nothing but automated report generation whenever the data is put in. So Prashant, being a solution engineer at GTL, I've come across multiple clients where they try to tap into the possibility where insights are auto-generated without having to put in those long hours of work. Is this a similar pattern you're witnessing as well? And are there any technologies in the market that could bridge this gap?
That's an amazing question for us to start with, Abhishek, and there is no better way for us to get into this topic because there's a very specific analytical capability that we'll be covering today, and it is important that everyone understand its relevance and why it is an integral part of business users analytics toolkit today. So we all know that the world that we live in today, there's data everywhere. There are companies that have more data and they don't really know how to leverage on that very well. Now with data comes opportunities to make data-driven decisions. According to a recent study with IDC, 83% of CEOs expect to be working in a data-driven organization. However, only 33% of employees are comfortable using data to support their decisions. This is a huge gap that shows us that not enough employees know how to get the most out of their data. And the reasons employees don't know how to get most out of the data is because data analytics has always been, slightly cumbersome to use, not very user-friendly. While there is significant change today because of agile platforms like Tableau, historically data analytics has been limited to IT and analysts because there were all these complicated, problems associated with analyzing data. This could be running advanced calculations, models, and so many other things. However, the majority of companies aren't made up of IT and analysts. Most companies comprise of sales folks and with people in service, people in marketing, or what we like to call as business users. This means that in order to create more data-driven employees, we need to give business users analytics that they can actually use. This is where augmented analytics comes in. Now, augmented analytics is a term that was coined by Gartner, which is essentially the use of enabling technologies such as machine learning and AI to help with data prep, insights, and explanation to augment how people explore and analyze data. Especially augmented analytics is all about making data analytics easier for everyone to use. And that is something that Tableau specializes on. We want anyone and everyone in an organization to use their data at the best possible way they can.
I completely agree with the IDC survey that you just quoted, Prashant, because see, this is a recurring pattern that even I keep coming across as well, right? So I interact with clients on a daily basis, maybe as part of giving them a solution, right? But what I notice is there's a plethora of data that is being captured across your organization, be it your sales data, your POS data, your marketing data, or anything. But majority of the times, firstly, there's no visibility towards this data or the different sort of analytics that could be potentially obtained using this data. So as per what you've just told, right, I think, or I believe the sort of potential augmented analytics has on the industry is quite exciting, and if used in a proper way can be quite revolutionary on how people even start perceiving this particular repository of data that they have. So as per your experience, right, can you just share some examples of how companies could leverage this?
Sure, absolutely. Now, Before we get into the examples and how augmented analytics actually helps, let's contextualize this by a simple example. Now, within Tableau, the way we've been positioning our augmented analytics and the way we've been introducing augmented analytics to customers is by using a metaphor. The metaphor that I'm going to use in context here is, let's assume you want someone to meet you at a location. Now let's break this down into different ways in which augmented analytics could be helping it, right? So there are three main streams within the realm of augmented analytics. Let's talk about the first one, which is data science. Now, data science, as we all know, is all about precision. And that is when you have to give somebody the exact location, like the lat long, where you want that person to be, and that's where you will end up meeting him. Then we have business science, something that we are now incorporating into our technology in a very, very big way. Now, business science essentially gives somebody a context, a way to find you. So essentially what we'll end up telling them is, hey, go down MG Road. When you see the first signal, take the right and you'll see me standing there in the corner. That's business science for you. And finally, augmented analytics is where we will make it so easy for people, like literally, opening up an Ola or an Uber app and just putting in, the location and, just reaching there in no time. Now, those are the different ways in which users could leverage analytics, and augmented analytics is essentially for business users, simplifying everything. Now, there are three things that we'll have to, consider when we want to get those answers using augmented analytics. First, you can always ask, questions about your data in natural language, and that's what we've been doing. Because business users will always understand their business, they understand their data. So what they essentially want to do is a very simplified way of getting answers out of the data, and there is no better way of letting them use natural language in getting those answers. So for example, a business user could just go in and type, what are the sales in Mumbai? And what we generate out for them is a good visualization that could be giving them just the sales in Mumbai or a trend of sales or whatever it is. So they can dive deeper. Second, what you want them to do is discover insights in context to where they are. Because business users would never just sit on a BI application or a CRM application or an ERP application, they want these technologies to be integrated. So they want answers in context to where they are. And that also helps, when you have augmented analytics living and breathing in the environment that they work in, right? And be it Tableau or in our parlance, be it Salesforce, you could use augmented analytics as to where you are. Now, the third one is, once you give them all these abilities, it gives the business user the ability to take those decisions better. It helps them become more confident of the data because they are getting all these answers without relying on anyone, shooting them on data that they have access to in the environment that they are. So you give them the confidence to work better. Now, let's contextualize this to some real world use cases. Like you said, some examples. Sales teams may use augmented analytics to investigate trends in their quotas and deals. Senior execs can use augmented analytics to easily explore data live during their board meetings. And this is something that we thrive on. Whenever we go and meet senior execs, we literally tell them, open up Tableau, don't rely on someone giving you the answers right then and there. Use Tableau to give you those answers. And with augmented analytics, that becomes much, much easier. IT departments could use, augmented analytics to look at, how their machines and the data centers are performing, or what kind of spikes do they see in their service requests. And analysts and data stewards can use the augmented analytics to better shape, clean their data so that they can give insights to their business users faster. Now, while these are persona-based examples, let's look at some specific vertical-based examples as well. So for example, in supply chain, augmented analytics can help understand why certain locations deliver products at an expected rate. In a travel and a hospitality environment, we could be using augmented analytics to further personalize, upsell and cross-sell of products. And in marketing and communications, we could be using augmented analytics to improve the effectiveness of, say, an ad campaign, which essentially uncovers all the hidden variables that could be there in your data.
Perfect. I think the sort of use cases you have given are quite interesting, Prashant. Specifically, the sort of, identifying your cross-sell or upsell customers, right? In terms of either travel or hospitality, and, why a particular products are not being delivered at a particular location from a supply chain management perspective is something that we see people are trying to crack in the real world, right? And when we actually look at how they do it, it might be highly manual process, or they'll have to depend on a particular set of team. So if tools like Tableau or Salesforce are able to solve these kind of problems for them, companies can definitely leverage them for a better or a seamless understanding of analytics, and can climb up the maturity model or a ladder at a much more faster pace. And thanks for especially breaking down the three main pillars, right, with specific examples of go to a particular street or take an Uber or auto. I think that gives our viewers more context at a much more simpler level as to what data science or business science essentially are. Now Prashant, taking some cue from your explanation that you've just given, let's say what GTL believes is that fundamentally there are three main pillars in any organization, right? People, process and technology. So even though there are huge advantages to augmented analytics that you've just stated, what do you feel are the best practices a company must follow for a proper adoption of augmented analytics? Because until and unless you adopt these particular systems into your organization, will you never see any sort of value from it? And adding to that, what do you think is the most significant advantage that augmented analytics or business science can give an organization?
Let's go back to the basics, right? So to democratize data, it is essential that organizations start with a very solid foundation of setting up a modern agile practice of analytics practice, which is built on scale, and the BI application that they are looking at has the capabilities to not only integrate with their current IT landscape, but also their future IT landscape. We've seen this many times with our customers where they choose a BI platform looking at what their short-term needs are, and in the long run, they don't understand how that particular application could scale. Now, what is happening with modern BI analytics essentially is that it has opened doors for anyone in the organization to use the data. Now, with AI and ML features being added, this is now going to become an extension of that paradigm. These represent complete new, move towards digital transformation in a self-service environment, which organizations today are gunning for. Second, while a solid foundation is essential, it is also vital that we prove success before scaling AI analytics as an investment. This is something that we champion in, wherein we always tell our customers to first ensure success, say in a vertical or a business or a particular use case, and then let everyone understand how this technology can be leveraged on. And with augmented analytics and AI, that is the same path that we'll have to figure out. So organizations will have to first test this out in a scoped environment. They'll have to figure out either a vertical or a particular use case in which they want to test this, see the success, and then take that internally to other verticals and business use cases. That is going to help them a lot taking this further. Now, how do they take this further? They take this further by ensuring that adoption is done. And adoption needs a lot of focus to demystify and reduce, all of this preconceived notions that AI and ML could, in future maybe, replace some of the activities that I do as an individual. That's not going to happen. What is important is that we need to educate users that with AI, they'll be able to better trust their data. With augmented analytics, the literacy for data within an organization is going to grow up. Now, while all of this is happening, it is also important for business users to understand that at the end of the day, AI is not going to give them answers that they want. They'll have to contextualize that into their business scenario. So they'll have to use their better judgment along with an output of an AI to then make better decisions. So it's more of a collaborative effort than just relying on AI and ML to give you the right answers. That's not what we are talking about. And finally, we need to create an environment to nurture success with collaboration and community. Now, how does this happen? The analysts essentially need to work very, very closely with the business team, because while the analysts understand what the AI and ML capabilities could generate, it's the business user that will give them the right input so that the output that the AI and ML is going to give them is going to be something that they can really, really use and help. So while this collaboration happens and this community gets built up, people will have better trust. People will rely a lot more on using augmented analytics. which will essentially help them, better communicate within themselves and have better explanations coming from data itself.
Beautifully put, Prashant. I think specifically a point about integrating the human element and the AI element for the best results out is something that even we advocate, right? But I think I couldn't have put it in much better words than you have just put it in. So let's say a customer wants to start using augmented analytics and the business science capabilities, right? So according to you, what products or architectures would you recommend them to have to ensure that they have a proper data flow and have the best features out?
Sure. So we know that most large companies that we are working for, not only large, most companies that we are working for have started relying a lot more on analytics or on augmented analytics, essentially to scale the analytics program within their ecosystem. The reason they do that is because it becomes easier for new users to get onboarded on the culture of data that they are incorporating in their ecosystem. So we are seeing that augmented analytics can actually aid in new users or people who've not really worked on data to better get equipped and get onboarded with using analytics. We are also seeing some organizations replacing static reports with completely augmented interactive dashboards. This not only helps save time in the entire development activity, but it also takes the barrier of entry of people who would typically take a lot more time to effectively get answers to their questions. So by removing the entire static nature of analytics, augmented analytics, like I was talking about natural language and things like that, users could actually use that and get answers very, very quickly. Now, how do we do it in our own ecosystem? So you have ask data and explain data, which is right out of the box. So anyone and everyone who's using Tableau can start leveraging on both ask data and explain data capabilities, right? It's just a click of a button. However, if users now want to get into the realm of business science with Tableau, then we have an extremely great add-on which is called Einstein Discovery for Tableau. Einstein Discovery for Tableau is a great add-on that can enable business users to directly get recommendations and predictions from their data in the environment that they're living in. So they could be using the add-on within their dashboards. They could also, so for example, if there are Salesforce customers, they could use the Einstein for Discovery within the Salesforce environment as well. So ask data, explain data is already out of the box. And if you want predictions and recommendations, Einstein Discovery can be a great add-on for people to now start leveraging on business science capabilities within Tableau.
I think in addition, I feel the ability of asking questions in natural language would kind of bridge that gap between data and business users in a much more efficient and a seamless manner, right? You were just giving an example earlier where maybe you're sitting in a board meeting, you're the CEO or the CFO, and someone might want to make a quick insight, right? So instead of actually developing on someone to maybe edit it or edit the report, you can just simply type in a question and get the relevant answer out within seconds, right? So I think the sort of value addition that Tableau gives in that sense is like huge, and the integration ability to even build ML models in Einstein Discovery would kind of democratize the entire ML lifecycle to the end users, right? Traditionally, the way things have been working out till now is you have a specific set of data science team who will take in your request, do the sort of a model processing, feature engineering, or anything of that sort. But when you actually put the real value of an ML model is when you put the power of the entire output in the hands of a business user, because they are the team who can make sense out of the data, or they are the team who can strategize on what to do next. I think this was an insightful conversation, Prashant. Thanks for your time, and thank you from GTL and all our viewers for the industry trends and insights you provided us.
Thank you so much, Abhishek. It was really, nice being here. The pleasure was all mine, and I really hope our users enjoy this as well.
Thank you for tuning in. If you would like to know more about our service offerings, please check out our all-new website, www.goldstonetech.com. Until next time, this is Abhishek Dhanavai signing off.